Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome to our webinar. I'm delighted that you're joining us today for the Reality Check Strategic Communication. Before we thought about making this webinar and preparing for this webinar, we asked ourselves if strategic communication actually has become a bit of a buzzword by now. I'm sure sometimes you might feel the same way because in the communications industry, we use this term constantly. We do as well because Scompler is the operating system for strategic communication. But today we kind of want to have a bit of more of a look behind the scenes and a reality check together what strategic communication even is. How do we actually ensure that it succeeds? And where and at what level do you actually find yourselves? And for this purpose, we have prepared our own strategic comms maturity score that we encourage you to take after this webinar to find out your strategic communication level and get tips for us for the next steps. And yeah, let's be on the strategic comms journey together. I'm very excited that I'm not alone today. I have Markus Elson, Director Strategic Accounts at Scompler with me. Markus is responsible for our enterprise clients. And actually 1 year ago, we did a webinar together as well with a joint webinar DHL Group, one of our biggest enterprise customers. And yeah, Markus, your job is basically to speak to large communication teams every day. I'm sure they're technically top-notch at their craft, but they approach Scompler because they are looking for a communication support system, an operating system to actually truly manage and measure their communication with Scompler. So I'm very excited, Markus, that you're joining us today and give us a couple of insights from your day-to-day work with communication teams.
Thank you so much, Alina. I'm so happy to be here with you. The second webinar after 1 year. Yes, I've got a lot of insights from my talks with our prospects, with our customers, and this strategic planning is very important for most of them. But our customers have different starting points, and this is something we want to address in this webinar, and I'm happy to do it together with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Markus. Yes, I'm Alina. I'm Senior Content Marketing Manager at Scompler. I'm responsible here for our webinars, and I'm excited to welcome all of you today. Before we dive into our agenda, on the right, you'll find a button that says interactions, where we prepared a couple of surveys, actually. And the first one I want to start right now. You probably see it now at the interactions button with a small number 1. Strategic communication, what is your current status? So we prepared just 3 short answers, how you would actually, talk about your level of strategic communications at the moment, how you feel about it. So feel free to give us a short answer within this survey. And while we do that, I want to tell you what's on our agenda for today. So first, we want to talk about the definition. What is actually the point of strategic communication, and why does it often fail, or what makes it more difficult in our day-to-day work? Then we want to talk about the topic architecture as a strategic framework. At Scompler, we really never get tired of talking about topic-centric communication. That's something that's very important to us and also our solution. So we want to talk about the topic architecture for a bit. Then I will hand over to Markus. And Markus, you just said also that you notice that so many communication teams are at different starting points. So we want to talk about these differences in strategic communication management for a bit. And then we want to dive into strategy in practice, let's say so. So how does this look like? Specifically in Scompler. So for every one of you who does not know our platform very well yet, we want to dive especially into the strategic features of Scompler. And in closing, we want to give you our maturity test, our strategic comms maturity score, that you can also find here already on this side on the QR code on the right. I do encourage you, though, to do it after the webinar. I think that makes the most sense probably. but we never know if maybe one or two of you have to leave early. Here is already the link to our maturity test. And by the end, we will be very happy to answer a couple of questions. So feel free to use the Q&A section on the right or the chat function to ask your questions. And we have received a couple of answers. And I'm excited to see, now you probably can see, Markus, on the right, the answers. So 40% said, room for improvement. We communicate mostly ad hoc and without clear processes. Another 40% said topics, goals, and roles are defined, but we are constantly optimizing and welcome for more input. The last part was, we're pretty good at strategic communication. Every piece of content contributes to strategic goals, workflows are transparent, and silos have been dismantled. And I feel like we did the same webinar in German last week. And it's interesting now to compare, because for the German webinar and mostly the German audience, we had, I think most of the people actually said, we're getting there, topics are defined, but we're happy to receive more input and we're constantly optimizing. So Markus, does that surprise you? Or do you feel like it makes sense that most people are kind of divided now?
Not really, Alina. This is completely what I expected. And what we can see from our side here, regardless of the question, where is your focus here in this picture? Never mind, you will get all the insights we can share with you, and it might be interesting for each of you.
Great. Thank you, Markus. So before we dive into our first point, just because I know there are a couple of people here in the webinar that might not know us that well already. So just a very short introduction to Scompler. So Scompler is our platform. Scompler connects goals, topics, teams, and messages used by more than 450 organizations globally to manage their comms with Scompler. We're very happy to have a broad range of blue chip companies, but also NGOs, university, medium-sized companies that are really looking for the right comtech to strategically manage their communication work with Scompler. So what Scompler is, it really is the central platform for all content activities, which means that strategy, content planning, content creation, but also publishing and analysis has found their home basically in one operating system, which is Scompler. We are a German company. We're based in Munich and Frankfurt. We have a lot of communicators working at Scompler. So we often say communication kind of lies in our DNA. And that's something that's really important for us when we work together with communication teams, that we have a lot of communication expertise and content expertise within our team. But we do want to get into the topic right now, and we will have a couple of more insights on Scompler later on, especially by Markus. But what the topic is for today, what does strategic communication do for us, and why does it fail, or what are challenges when it comes to strategic communication? And before we dive into the practical side of it, a very brief look at the science behind it. It won't be a long lecture, but we find that research is extremely helpful in defining the boundaries of this field of communication and strategic communication. So if we look at the definition by Kirk Hallahan, who is one of the pioneers in the field of strategic communication, he actually says, strategic communication is defined as the purposeful use of communication by an organization to fulfill its mission. And that really is a crucial point, right? It clearly distinguishes itself from communication that does not do it. So that is not a purposeful use. And very similar, Ansgar Zerfas, one of the most well-known professors of the subject in Germany, actually puts it. He says, by strategic communication, I mean communication that is substantively and significantly relevant to the survival and long-term success of companies. And anyone who adopts this definition will realize that many communication measures that consume large budgets and massive resources, such as large campaigns or the relaunch of a new intranet, do not in fact fall under it. And I feel like that definition is quite interesting, because I don't think that Mr. Zerfas means that large campaigns or the launch of a new intranet cannot be strategic or not a part of strategic communication, but that communication teams should always challenge it and have clear goals, have clear measurements to actually then challenge, is this large campaign or is our intranet relaunch actually accompanying broader company goals and a company mission? Or is it just a big factor of budgets and massive resources? So we also thought about, how do we define strategic communication? Like, what do we really mean by it? And what distinguishes it from other forms of communication? So I have brought 4 characteristics that really set the framework for us today. And I think probably all of these 4 characteristics are not really surprising to most of you, especially to the ones that are working very strategically already within the communication. So number 1, business alignment. And this is basically something that I just talked about a couple of minutes ago. Every measure must contribute to a measurable organizational goal. So if it's increase in revenue, if it's crisis prevention, if it's employer branding goals, but there has to be a clear business alignment between the communication measures and the company goals. What's also quite important is the factor of long-term perspective. So strategic communication is less about short-term hypes, but it's more about building reputation and trust over years. But what we've also noticed within our customers or communication teams that we're working with, that's something that you brought up also, Markus, is yes, on the one side, long-term strategic goals, long-term strategic topics, but communication teams also have to stay agile, right? They need to have a good feeling for trends, to whatever is happening on the market and in like the bigger communication framework, to actually react to it as well. Markus, what's your stance on that? Like, what do you notice within communication teams?
Yes, what I see directly in mostly every talk I have with prospects is that it's very important to focus on the industry communication, for example, to take a deeper look what is happening, what kind of buzz we have in the market. And there's often a connection to our own core story, to our profile. And when it comes to daily business, regularly we don't have the time and the focus. We see only, oh, we have so much to do, we have to do this and this, that, and then we forget to take a deeper look to the market, because there are very often very strong narratives that help us to bring a very strong communication, strategic communication message to the market to help us to reach our goals. This is what I see really often in the market and in my talks.
That's interesting, Markus. Yeah, because we often talk about this long-term perspective, but as you just put it, linking current events, current hypes to your strategic topics is also such a vital building block, really, of strategic communication. The third building block I want to talk about very shortly is the topic of impact measurement. And I'm sure that many of you work on that, maybe even struggle with that. Like, how do we really measure the impact of our communication? But it really does begin with research. So like situation analysis, target group identification, and every strategic communication measure also ends with evaluation. So really impact measurement, performance measurement, finding the key KPIs that really fit your strategic communication framework and actually show what your communication achieves and how you move your audience, because that really is what communication is about, being very audience centric and moving something within your audience and finding the right ways to measure that. And last but not least, consistency. I think that is a very easy one theoretically to really ensure to spread unified messages across all channels, whether it's social media, press releases, internal mails. But what we do notice within our customer base, but also with prospects and communication teams, that this one might be the hardest one, maybe actually in day-to-day work, because if you might look at your own team or your own company organization that you're working with, silos and not really knowing what other people are working on right now is kind of a day-to-day challenge, which really makes it hard to actually communicate in a very consistent way. So we've talked a lot about definitions and really like the building blocks now, but at the end of the day, especially management and CEOs like to ask one question, like what's in it for us now with strategic communication? Like why should we really put time and resources into reorganizing our processes or actually changing structures to work more strategically? And when we look at this side, we actually see central values that strategic communication actually delivers to an organization. I don't want to talk about each and every one of the eight factors in detail, but if we, for example, look at the first two factors, so it's all about reputation, resilience, guidance. And we really think of strategic communication as your protective shield. It doesn't just boost reputation in good times, it really serves as the backbone during crisis, during transformations. We have a couple of really inspiring examples for this within our customer base also. So for example, ThyssenKrupp Steel, for everyone that does not know this company, it's a blue chip company for steel production, a very big German, but also European and global wide known company. They, for example, really restructured the communication as part of a economic insecurity and economic instability. So really going hand in hand in crisis, in times of transformation, to then think about, okay, how can we make our communication more strategic and more efficient? Similar, for example, with the group, a German bank group called Sparkasse. So really thinking about when we talk about fusions, about mergers, about just big organizational changes, how can communication actually support this and help to make these big changes more efficient and more easy for everyone to handle? And we're really talking about internal communication, which is really important in these phases, but also external communication, going hand in hand and really being a backbone within these organizational changes. But also the role of the communicator. And this is a point that's very close to us because we talk with communicators a lot. So really talking about your own role here, moving from being just like a service provider towards actually becoming a strategic advisor, having this leadership function, also having this decision-making ability that comes through focus and prioritizing your strategic topics and what's important for your team, which really gives you a seat at the table, to put it like that. And also the last bigger point when we're talking about impact and efficiency, right? And that's such an important point for many companies in recent years, because most companies at the moment are probably not increasing their resources. They're probably doing the opposite. So we need more impact with fewer resources and less budget. And that's exactly what strategic communication does. So when we prioritize strategically, we stop doing things that do not contribute to our goals. And that really helps us with clear focus, with clear stakeholder addressed communication, really putting the audience in the center of our communication measures, and also a clear AI governance, right? We're talking about AI so much at the moment, but if you really embed it with guardrails, with meaningful application, embed it into your strategic framework, communication framework, then it really will be a big enablement factor and really a strategic colleague, a team player to make you even more strategic and more efficient within your communication work. Before I want to hand over and talk more about topic centricity and topic architecture as a framework, I really want to have your opinions. And if you look at the right side again, you probably will see a small number 1 at the interaction button as well, because now we really want to talk about, if strategic communication sounds so logical, why do so many teams have problems with it? Like, why are there so many challenges? And the answer really often lies in the daily operational communication routine. So in practice, we observe several major roadblocks. I think the number 1 problem, or one of the most important factors, is the on-call principle and lack of processes. So communication often becomes a service provider for the ad hoc requests of other departments. And that is something that we notice a lot within the communication teams that we talk to. So without clear responsibility, it's very easy for other teams to approach you and ask you, can you do this newsletter? Can you help me here with the internal comms? We need one more social post on topic X, Y, and Z. But that also means that you end up with duplicated work or stranded content that no one really reads, that no one finds. And that is something we like to talk about as well when we talk about different tools, right? And kind of like a tool chaos. So when we talk about Excel lists, Trello boards, Microsoft Planner, knowledge is really scattered across personal inboxes about many, many various tools, which leads to no transparency, no collaboration, and really content that just gets lost on SharePoint or Confluence in a way. And also one important factor is kind of like a content vacuum, right? So without shared topics or without shared narratives and really a common understanding of target groups, we notice that a lot when we talk about communication teams and marketing teams, for example, working together. Yes, in most organizations, it's 2 different teams and 2 different disciplines, corporate communications and marketing. But technically, they should talk about the same topics. They should talk about the same narratives, and they should have a common understanding of their target groups, like who do they want to reach. But often we do notice that that is not the case. So you kind of fall back into an isolated channel thinking. And yeah, you might be posting on all of these different channels, but really there is no big picture. And when we look at the answer that you have just given us, we do really see that as well. So you say, no, and insufficient collaboration coordination is a problem. Also, the lack of shared understanding of topics and target groups, and also all of the other factors. So chaotic tools, chaotic Excel lists, unclear roles and responsibilities. So all of these are really challenges that we notice within communication teams at the moment. Let's find a couple of minutes to talk about the topic architecture. And I know, Markus, that's also a topic that's very important to you, because that is one of the first things that you talk to communication teams about. Like, how do you structure your topics? How do you manage them? Do you even have clear topics, right? And that is why the topic architecture and really this framework of the topic architecture is such a big part of when we talk about strategic communication, because it really organizes all of a company's topics according to strategic criteria. So you really see these 3 different levels here: the strategic level, the tactical level, and the operational level. Really starting from the core story, and Markus, you will talk about that also in a minute. Really starting from the core story. What is our promise? What really is our company promise, and why do we do all this? Going over topic areas, topic stories, and really ending at the channels. So the where, when, and how often we say something to our target groups and through which channels really is at the end of the topic architecture. So it really organizes topics from long-term topic areas to the operational initiatives. It's kind of already also like an internal compass in a way, right? So the topics no longer arise by accident or because maybe the other team from across the room shouts to you, oh, we need another social post or another intranet post on this topic, but they really are planned and they are directly derived from the strategy. And how that looks in Scompler and how we have integrated it in Scompler. Markus, now over to you.
Thank you so much, Alina. But first of all, I want to come back for a while to our survey on the right side, because I want to tell you, when I see what are your answers here, you're in very good company, and this is quite typical. So many communication teams have to focus concretely on these topics and these situations you mentioned here on the right side. So it's quite typical, and you're not alone. Very important from my side to tell you. Yeah, topic architecture. There are different opportunities to build a strategic communication. So, and we would say one of the best ways to tackle it is to focus on the classical setup, I would say, of the newsroom. And in a newsroom, it is very important that we have a strong architecture that focus on the right topic areas. And the topic areas have to focus very much on your core story. This is very important, because when you don't do so, you will have the situation that you get a lot of requests. We have to do this communication, we have to do that one. And in the end, you can't say or can't give concrete feedback what is very important or what is in focus of our strategic communication. So this is very important. So you have the concrete linking to your core story, and below our topic architecture, from the starting point, from our topic fields, we have our topics. The topics are the point of reference, I would say, for our stakeholders, how they interact with the content regarding their issues and the profile of your company core story. So these both areas are most important for a strong content strategy. On the other hand, you have the opportunity, and this is how we tackle it in general, to have strong strategic parameters, for example, business goals and communication goals, core messages, target groups, and so on. And every communication layer needs special focus, and this is what we can build here. Then we have the stories. The stories are our concrete communication events we want to focus on, and we are here still on the tactical level, I would say, because we need a strong briefing in our stories, but in the end, the concrete creation of the content is in the field of our content pieces on the bottom of this column here. So our channel planning and the interaction between the channels and the teams regarding their professional business you find here on this layer. And this is what builds a very strong topic architecture when you focus on the setup of the newsroom. But there are different ways to do it, and we will talk about it a little bit later. So
thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thanks, Markus. I'm excited to hear a bit more about the different layers in Scompler as well, and how we actually can work with the strategic features within Scompler. And last but not least, really based on the topic architecture, we have prepared a guide for you. So on the left, you will find the QR code and the link to our really pretty detailed guide on how to actually build your topic architecture based on your company strategy. So really linking these company goals to your strategic topics. And that brings me to the different perspectives that we have for the topic architecture. So this is really just a short insight. You will find more on it in the guide. But yeah, number one, the company perspective is what we just talked about, right? What strategic goals is the company pursuing? So we're talking about business goals, about brand promises, about employer branding goals. So all of this needs to be taken into account when you think about your strategic topics and really defining your topic architecture. Then we also already talked about audience perspective. So really, which topics are relevant to our audiences? And that is super important because it's very important that we not only stick in our head and think about, oh, we as a company want to talk about these topics, but we really need to find out and listen to our audience. What do they want to hear? Like, what are they interested in? And what is something that we can give them that maybe other people or other companies can't give them? So really persona models, customer mapping, stakeholder journey mapping, all of these different methods really come into the place for audience perspective. Also market and competitive perspective, right? So which topics do others cover and how do we really differentiate ourselves? And when we prepared this webinar, we talked about different industries that we work together with. So for example, we have many customers that are in the energy industry, right? Such as Siemens Energy, for example, but also other bigger German, but also global companies that are working in the energy sector. And they do not have the same topic architecture. And it's very important that they do not have the same topic architecture because it's so relevant to actually look at what topics do others talk about? What do we want to talk about? And really, what is our strategic focus? Because it would be very boring if all energy companies and all energy enterprise companies would talk about the same topics, right? So content analysis, narrative comparison, all of that really comes into place here. And we also want to talk shortly about the culture perspective. And that is something, Markus, that you talked about in the beginning also when we're talking about trend radars, media monitoring, really looking at what's happening on social media.
Social listening, for example.
Social listening, totally. So really, which social, political, or cultural issues influence our communicative space? And I do feel like there are many, many companies, also global companies, that are doing this in a very, very cool way and very important way, right? When we talk about everything that's happening culturally and politically at the moment, but also big social events, right? And companies just hop onto that, cover it, try to connect it to their strategic goals. And that is very important when we think about perspectives for the topic architecture as well. Now I want to hand over to you, Markus, because I really feel this is something that you have a lot of experience in, because you talk to corporate communication teams and marketing teams a lot. And you have kind of found out that there are different ways of experience levels and teams that approach you in different ways within the communication atmosphere. So handing it over to you now, Markus, to kind of take us on the road of different teams.
Yes, I'm happy to do so. Thank you, Alina. First of all, you gave us already a very good insight or insights. What does it mean to be in the strategic communication business? And it's always a great pleasure for me to talk with new prospects, with communication teams from any kind. And what I see, I've written down here these three buckets. So we have three typical situations, I would say. First of all, our strategy is ready. So we already have a strong strategic communication set up. We know what are our targets. We know exactly what our core story, our mission, our vision is, very concrete, and everything is aligned with anything or everything. This is one setup we regularly see. So they want to enter directly in the topic center planning. They have a transparency plan, and they have clear roles, workflows, and everything is in place. So they need a tool to bring everything together, to set it up and go live in the communication. This is the version 1. But when you're not like this at the moment, and you say, okay, we are at a starting point, no worries. Or when you say, okay, we made our first steps, and now we have to speed up a little bit. Perhaps you're version 2. So we are introducing the software and the new strategic direction in parallel. This is a situation I very often see in the market. So it's completely okay. So breaking down the silos, we'll start with the introduction of a solution like Scompler. These teams are defining topics and stories at the moment already, and they need the right platform to do it in a strong alignment with the communication framework. This is what is version 2. And then we have the version number 3. Some customers and prospects come to us and say, okay, we have to start our planning. What might be our core stories? What should be our mission? What is our vision? What are our topic fields? And where do we have to focus to find a strong focus and a strong reaction in the market? This is version 3. So those customers very often do it in parallel. They want to develop all their strategic issues and work on it, and their planning and their strategy, and do it with the introduction of Scompler. So never mind which is your situation at the moment. It's always a good plan to do it like this. Everything is working, and you're focusing on a very good plan when you're one of those 3 versions.
That's very interesting, Markus, because it really shows that what we often talk about as well, one size doesn't fit all, right? Like there are different teams. Every team is different. Every organization is different. And organizations also have different resources, right? Maybe strategic communication has already been a priority for company X for the past 10 years, but for company Y, it's just coming up in these past months. And for that, and I find that very interesting as well, Markus, you also recommend, just different methods, right? Like you don't have to start all at once. You can do it in different steps.
That's it, Alina. So you all know we have been talking about integrated communications, I would say, for decades, decades. And we all know it's sometimes very hard to tear down the silos. It is very hard to get a strong alignment with all our communication teams in our company. And what I want to mention here is this is not really the problem, because you can start, you have your own starting point for the strategic business, for the strategic communication. You can start with one team. For example, very often we are talking to corporate comms, for example, and you can say, okay, let's start with the strategic planning. We have our architecture and we work with it. And perhaps in the next step, we have to integrate other teams. So this is what you see here on the left side. Then in the middle, yes, there's a strong alignment, for example, between some teams. For example, social media is involved, including community management, corporate comms as well, and content marketing, for example. It's a little bit better, you can say, but okay, there is no better or worse. It means you have a strong alignment between some teams, and you can develop a very efficient way to start your strategic communication in a very polite way. This is what you see here in the middle. And on the right side, this is the endpoint, I would say. And this is the perfect situation when everything is aligned, everything, every communication discipline, employer branding, for example, internal communication, external communication, public affairs, crisis communication. So, but no worries. It makes no difference that you have a good opportunity to start in a very strategic way to work with a tool like Scompler and find concrete results. What is the impact of your communication to the business success?
Thank you, Markus. Kate just wrote in the chat, it's a bit hard to read this one, but looks interesting. You can actually zoom a little bit here on Webinar Geek. I hope that helps to just like zoom on the screen, but of course you will all receive the recording and the slide deck, and then you can look at it a bit more closely. But yeah, just to evaluate what Markus just said, on the left side, really seeing, okay, single disciplines really starting out, right, with strategic communication or starting out with Scompler. Then multiple disciplines, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 coming together. I like to talk about, for example, our very positive example in this case with DHL, so DHL Group, that Markus and I did a webinar with last year. I think they started with internal communication, then they got social media on board, and then I think PR and media relations followed, and really rolling it out step by step in a global effort. And obviously, especially when we're talking about enterprise, really many teams and many people coming together. And then on the right side, really, as you said, Markus, having the full-on integrated flower kind of with all of the teams that are working on content, on communication together, really using this one framework together.
And one more message for Kate, you get the presentation afterwards, so you can see it full screen after that.
Yeah, on a very big screen, exactly. And now to dive a little bit deeper within actually how we think about strategic communication, how it is actually integrated into our platform, and really focusing on topic architecture, strategy, parameters, and roles. That's very important for us. As I mentioned in the beginning, Scompler really is the operating system for everything regarding strategic communication. So really planning, content production, also content publishing. We don't really want to talk about the production, publishing, and analysis part too much today, but really focus on strategy and planning. And for that, I feel like, Markus, you brought the perfect statement to kind of dive deeper into that.
Yes, we had some discussions in advance, Alina and me, and we talked about what are our core messages we want to bring to you, to our audience. And when we had our discussions, I said strategic communication does not create any complexities, it reduces them, because this is so important for me, and I'm pretty sure it's so important for you. Because a lot of people I'm talking to say, okay, yes, we know we have to do strategic communication. We have to focus on our architecture. We need a strong alignment with our core messages, with our business goals, and so on and so on. But we don't have any time for it. So the message is, okay, when you start a new setting in the communication, it's completely sure. It takes some time to define everything, to get an alignment with all the teams you want to start and work with. But in the end, nobody would do a proper strategic communication when the result wouldn't be, at the end, you reduce complexity, you reduce the effort in the production of your content and the planning, you will invest less money for your campaigns, because when everything is aligned and integrated, you don't have to do so much in parallel. So in the end, you get a strong result. That means that you will invest more time in the planning, but you won't have any more complexities. It will be much easier to find the right way to communicate the right stories on the right channel to the right stakeholder. Yeah, this is very important from my point of view. So what you see here, just an example. This is not a real company, Pure Vault, but it's an example for a company that might be in the sustainable energy business. And this is a classical topic architecture, I would call it like this. In Scompler, you have strong topic areas, renewable energy initiatives, for example, and so on, global operations and market presence. You see it here in blue, or it's, yes, and we have also the green fields here, like ideas, campaigns, publications, issues management, events and communication occasions. Very important is, from our point of view, we don't talk about the channels and the planning. We talk about the alignment of all our content, our stories to our topics and our topic areas. But you find them here in the middle of our strategy. But you can also create a second view when you say, okay, we have strong stories, and in our stories, for example, we have campaign assets as well, and we want to see what kind of assets we have in the classical campaigning business. Then you can create a second view, and this is what we've seen here in the fields with the crosses. And this is a concrete example. Here you see a concrete channel planning. For example, we have a story here, e-world, energy, and water booth. And you see what are the channels and what are the content assets we bring to the market to communicate our core messages and all our strategic focus messages in the right way, on the right channel, to the right stakeholders. As I mentioned before, there's not only one way to do strategic communication. And when you ask me, I would recommend to do it in this classical way with our topic architecture I mentioned before and I showed you. And this is a little bit the DNA of Scompler, but there are consultants out there in the business that build strategic communication in a different way. They focus very much on the first level on core messages, for example, redefining quality and mobility, for example, here, or driving technological leadership. It's also possible. And then you have on the second level the concrete messages that gives you the opportunity to bring your products and your core messages in a very concrete way to the market. Within these topics, you find your stories and all the complete narratives you have to communicate when you will be focused on your strategic plans. And this is also possible. This is not a mistake, but from my point of view, it's not the perfect way. Important always is that we are able to find out what are the core stories we need, what are the messages we have to address, because they are aligned with our core story, and always very important as well, what we don't want to communicate, because there is no focus in our core story, and this is not what differentiates us from our market. Here we have a second view, or third view, I would say. The topic architecture by campaigns is always possible, and we often talk to classical marketing teams, and they say, okay, we have our roof campaigns. You see it here, for example, global campaigns, more range, fewer compromises, for example. And then we have our individual campaigns on the next level. Here you see campaign 1.1, going beyond the mile, for example. And then you have perhaps the complete flights for the different stages of the customer journey, for the unaware phase, for the aware phase, for retention, and so on, for the purchase phase. It's also possible. And it gives you also the opportunity to focus very much on clear strategic parameters and bring it to a new quality to your market, and build a bit better impact on your on the business goals. Here, once again, you see the different layers. First, the topic field or the topic area, then the topics, then the story, and then the concrete planning. This is, in the end, what is very important to enhance the strategic planning with the tactic planning, and on the end, bring it to the to your customers and to your stakeholders by the concrete story, and in the end, content and channel planning. So always important. You see it here as an example. This is a topic card, and you see, sure, we need a concrete planning for every story, and the better we plan, why are we doing this communication? Why are we doing this story? Why are we planning this campaign with a concrete briefing? It gives us the best opportunity to align the dedicated planning here with the strategic parameters, and in the end, this is very important to be successful in the end. Here some examples. I mentioned before the strategic parameters are as well very important. We have not only our core story, we don't have only our topic fields and our topics, but it's very important to have the opportunity to bring the right key messages, the business goals, our KPIs and planning. So in the end, we can track every kind and every piece of communication And this is what you see here. So you're completely flexible, what kind of strategic parameters you want to use. Scompler is very flexible in the setting here, and you could do anything you want to, what is useful for your company and your strategic planning. Also important, the concrete roles. You see it here as an example, who is responsible for what. So in the end, and this is what I've seen here in the poll as well, sometimes we forget that we have clear responsibilities. This is very important. And you can set it up in Scompler as well. And you can bring it directly to the planning of your topics, your stories, and the complete channels and content assets.
Thank you, Markus. Maybe just to ask a question here, because we do really notice with our customers and different communication teams that we're working with, that they do have very different setups when it comes to roles, right? And I feel like an important part also is things such as legal checks or maybe management functions that want to kind of have a bit of a look at what the communication teams is doing and how they're working, but they're obviously not as hands-on as, for example, a topic manager or a content producer within the project. So do you have like specific recommendations for teams and roles, or do you more so say, hey, you should look at how your organization is functioning, we can support most of it, and work with the roles and responsibilities however it works for you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have recommendations for concrete roles. My recommendation would be focus very much what roles are important and necessary for your communication business, and then differentiate between the target groups, between the channels, and a big advantage is that you can set up the concrete planning with dedicated roles and workflows for every communication discipline, for every communication asset. And this is what we should do at the beginning. And when everything is in place, you don't have to think it over. And this gives you room for your strategic planning and working, when you don't have to focus, oh, who is responsible now for which? Should I send this article for improvement to this or that role? Set it up in advance. This is what we are doing in our onboarding business, usually together with our customers in dedicated workshops, to find the right way to bring the right people to the right decision and to the right offers and things you have to do the concrete planning, creation, and improvement of your content.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, one important part of strategic planning and strategic communication, as we said, is also reporting, impact measurement, right?
It's very important. So what I see very often, that a lot of communication teams in the corporate communication business, for example, or especially there, I would say, can't give any concrete feedback. What is the success of our communication? So when you have the strategic setup and you define what do we want to achieve in which topic field, topic area, in which topic, with which story, what are our core messages for what target group, and so on and so on. And you can do your reportings in Scompler. Every click I do in Scompler gives you the opportunity to create your own calendar view and your own report. And so you can, sometimes for the first time, completely report to what of our targets, business goals, we had a strong alignment with our communication. What about the success of the communication? What are the social insights we got? And so you can make your communication better and better with the concrete planning. And for this, you need your concrete reports. This is what we see here, and this is so important. And is a new opportunity for a lot of communication teams to completely align their strategic planning with the business goals.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Markus, for this small strategic deep dive into, especially the strategic functions and features of Scompler. Of course, for us, it's really important to mention that we offer, or like our solution basically offers strategic communication for all different departments, right? So we were talking about corporate communications a lot now, but also with the goal of integrated communication to really get rid of those silos and work in a very integrated way together. But of course, there are also other disciplines and really teams that can manage their communication in a very topic-centered and audience-centered strategic way. Internal communications, content marketing, content operations, social media management, PR. So yeah, basically everyone, as we said, that's really working closely with regards to content and communication really is invited to do that in a strategic way and level up the strategic comms, I'd say. And for that, we created a small little comms maturity test. And I would love for you to actually fill it out and kind of test your own level of strategic comms at the moment. It's only 5 questions, so really it's kind of based on 5 very different and important building blocks for strategic comms. And you will receive a personalized emails after filling out the maturity test to really give you a couple of very hands-on tips and recommendations, but also recommendations from our customers and really corporate comms teams that are already working in a very strategic and integrated way, and to really find out where did they start, what did they change, and where are they now. I always feel like it's very nice to learn from others when it comes to strategic communication. And also on the right side here, again, at the interaction button, I started the survey. So if you're interested in the following offers, really getting to know Scompler in a demo and a test phase for your team, please feel free to reach out. We always include a very individual, personalized demo based on your organization, based on your how you work together, your roles and workflows, and then give you the opportunity to test it for yourself for a couple of weeks to really get to know how your communication work could look like within the platform. And last but not least, before we end this webinar, a couple of coming ups, basically what's new at Scompler, because that is something that we did not talk about yet within this webinar. Of course, we have AI within our product. The question didn't even arise, so maybe most of you already expected that we have an integrated AI. For us, it's really important to have an AI that is really embedded in your communication workflows, that knows your target groups, knows your personas, knows your goals, and to really give you strategic advice, help you to be more efficient in day-to-day communication work. We just recently had a performance upgrade, so now you get double the input with the same invest. So if you want to check it out, feel free to do that. And as well, we have a big release coming up next week, the Scompler Marketplace, which will be the ecosystem to connect all of your comms tools, because that also is a very important part of strategic communication. We don't just work with one tool in our communication work. We have all of the social media platforms, we have the DAM systems, the content management systems, and to really find a place and ecosystem to connect all of them in a strategic way. That is what we aim to do with Scompler Marketplace. So stay tuned for that. And with that, it's only 1 minute left now until 11 o'clock. So Markus, thank you very, very much for joining, for giving these insights today. And
Alina, as well.
And of course, thank you for everyone who tuned into this webinar. Feel free to reach out to us afterwards as well if any questions arises. We will send you the recording and the slide deck. And another reminder for the Strategic Comms Maturity Score, if you want to find out your level, feel free to take it. And yes, see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.